"Where are you taking me?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Somewhere warm. Somewhere safe." He glanced at her briefly, and something in his expression softened. "When was the last time you ate?" This morning." The lie came automatically. She had learned not to accept charity, not to appear too desperate. But her stomach betrayed her, growling loudly in the quiet car. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile. "We will fix that." They drove in silence for a few more minutes, leaving downtown and heading toward the nicer part of the city, where the buildings were taller and the streets were cleaner. Rachel watched the neighborhoods change through the window, feeling like she was traveling through different worlds. How had her life shrunk so small that these few miles felt like crossing an ocean? "My name is James," the man said suddenly. "James Henderson." "Rachel," she whispered. "Rachel Turner." "Well, Rachel Turner, tonight your luck changes." He pulled into the circular drive of a hotel, not just any hotel, but the kind with a doorman and a chandelier visible through the glass entrance. "I need you to trust me for a little while longer. Can you do that?" Rachel stared at the hotel, at the warm light spilling onto the wet pavement, at the doorman in his uniform starting to approach the car with an umbrella. This had to be a dream. Or a trap. Nothing in her life had prepared her for this moment. But what choice did she have? Behind her was hunger, cold, and those three men in the rain. Ahead was a stranger who had not hurt her yet, who had given her a towel, and was now offering something she could not even begin to understand. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, turning to look at him directly for the first time. James Henderson met her gaze, and for a moment, something painful flickered in his eyes. "Because someone should have helped my sister," he said quietly. "And no one did." Before Rachel could ask what he meant, the doorman opened her door, holding the umbrella high. James was already out of the car, handing his keys to the valet. He looked back at Rachel, still sitting frozen in the passenger seat. "Come on," he said, and his voice was kind. "Let's get you warm and fed. Then we will talk." Rachel stepped out into the covered entrance, leaving the rain behind. Her legs felt unsteady, like she was walking on the deck of a ship. The doorman smiled at her politely, not looking at her wet clothes or her muddy shoes. James placed a hand lightly on her shoulder, guiding her through the revolving door into the lobby. The warmth hit her like a wall. Rachel had not realized how cold she was until that moment. Her body started shaking uncontrollably. James steered her toward the front desk, where a woman in a crisp blazer greeted him by name. "Good evening, Mr. Henderson. Your usual suite?" "No, I need a room for Miss Turner here. Something comfortable. And have room service send up dinner, soup, bread, something warm and easy. And tea." He looked at Rachel. "Do you drink tea?" Rachel could only nod. She was shaking so hard her teeth were clicking together. "Make it chamomile," James told the desk clerk. He accepted a key card and turned to Rachel. "Come on. Let's get you upstairs." The elevator ride was silent except for the soft music playing overhead. Rachel caught sight of herself in the mirrored walls, pale, hollow-eyed, with hair plastered to her skull. She looked like a ghost. Next to her, James Henderson looked like he belonged on a magazine cover. The contrast was almost painful. The room was on the 8th floor. James opened the door and gestured for her to enter. Rachel stepped inside and stopped, overwhelmed. It was beautiful, a real bed with white sheets, a desk, a television, a bathroom with clean towels visible through the open door. Everything was perfect and untouched. "The food will be here in about 20 minutes, James said from the doorway. He set the key card on the dresser. "There's a robe in the closet. Take a hot shower. Get warm. Eat. Rest." "I don't understand," Rachel said, her voice cracking. "Why are you doing this? What do you want from me?" James was quiet for a moment, studying her with those unreadable eyes. "I want you to accept help," he said finally. "That's all. Tonight, just accept help. Tomorrow morning, someone will come to talk to you. Her name is Patricia. She will explain everything." He started to leave, then paused. "Rachel, I'm not a saint. I'm just a man who learned too late that ignoring suffering does not make it go away. Get some rest. Your life is about to change." Then he was gone, the door clicking softly shut behind him. Rachel stood alone in the hotel room, dripping on the carpet, unable to process what had just happened. Slowly, as if in a dream, she walked to the bathroom and turned on the shower. Steam began to fill the small space. She peeled off her wet clothes and stepped under the hot water. And for the first time in 23 days, Rachel Turner allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was going to survive. Rachel stood under the shower until the water ran cold, scrubbing her skin with a small bottle of hotel soap until she felt almost human again. The dirt and grime of 3 weeks on the street swirled down the drain, and with it, some of the fear that had become her constant companion. When she finally stepped out, wrapping herself in the thick white robe James had mentioned, she caught her reflection in the mirror. Her cheeks had more color. Her eyes looked less hollow. She looked like a person again, not a shadow. The food arrived just as she finished drying her hair with a towel. A young man in a hotel uniform wheeled in a cart laden with covered dishes, the smell making Rachel's knees weak. She signed for it with a shaking hand, using the room number James had gotten for her, and the server left with a polite smile. Rachel lifted the silver covers one by one. Chicken soup, thick with vegetables and noodles. Fresh bread, still warm. A garden salad. A pot of chamomile tea with honey and lemon on the side. And a slice of chocolate cake that looked like something from a magazine. She ate slowly at first, trying to be civilized, but hunger won out. She devoured the soup, the bread, half the salad. The food was the best thing she had ever tasted, or maybe she was just so hungry that everything tasted like heaven. The warmth spread through her body, settling in her stomach, easing the constant ache. When she finally pushed back from the small table, she felt drowsy and full for the first time in weeks. Rachel moved to the bed, intending to just sit for a moment. The mattress was soft, the pillows like clouds. She pulled back the covers and slid between the clean sheets, and it felt like being wrapped in safety itself. She meant to stay awake, to think about what had happened, to plan what she would say to this Patricia person in the morning. But exhaustion crashed over her like a wave, and within minutes, Rachel Turner was asleep. She woke to sunlight streaming through the window. For a confused moment, she could not remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The rain, the men chasing her, James Henderson and his silent kindness. Rachel sat up quickly, her heart racing. Had it all been real? But no, here was the hotel room, exactly as she remembered it. There was the cot with the empty dishes. There was the robe she had worn last night, draped over a chair. A knock at the door made her jump. Rachel wrapped herself in the robe and approached cautiously. "Who is it?" "Room service. I have a delivery for Miss Turner." Rachel opened the door crack. A different server stood there, holding a large bag and a garment bag. "Mr. Henderson arranged for these to be delivered," he explained. "May I bring them in?" Rachel stepped aside, and the server wheeled in another cart, this one stacked with shopping bags. He hung the garment bag in the closet and gestured to the bags. "There's breakfast here as well, and some items we thought you might need. Is there anything else I can get you?" "No, thank you," Rachel managed. The server left, and she approached the bags like they might disappear if she moved too quickly. Inside the first one was a complete outfit. Jeans in her size, a blue sweater, undergarments still in packages, socks, and a pair of simple but sturdy shoes. There were toiletries too, a hairbrush, toothbrush and toothpaste, basic makeup, lotion. The garment bag held a professional-looking dress in a deep green color and a blazer. The breakfast cart held fresh fruit, yogurt, granola, orange juice, and coffee. There was also a note written in neat handwriting. "Patricia will meet you in the lobby at 10. Please eat and take your time getting ready. You're safe here. J.H." Rachel checked the clock. It was 8:30. She had slept for almost 12 hours. She ate slowly this time, savoring each bite of melon and strawberry, letting the coffee warm her from the inside. Then she dressed in the new clothes, marveling at how they fit perfectly. Someone had guessed her size exactly. She brushed her hair until it shone and even applied a little makeup, just enough to hide the worst of the exhaustion still etched in her face. At 5 minutes to 10, Rachel took the elevator down to the lobby. She felt strange in clean clothes, walking through the beautiful space like she belonged there. The desk clerk from last night smiled at her. "Good morning, Ms. Turner." Mrs. Holmes is waiting for you by the fireplace." Rachel turned and saw a woman in her 50s rising from one of the leather chairs near the lobby fireplace. She was wearing a gray pantsuit, her silver hair cut in a stylish bob. When she smiled, her whole face lit up. "Rachel," she said warmly, extending her hand. "I'm Patricia Holmes. It's wonderful to meet you." Rachel shook her hand, unsure what to say. Patricia gestured to the chair across from her. "Please, sit. Would you like more coffee? Tea?" "I'm fine, thank you." Rachel sat on the edge of the chair, her back straight, ready to run if this turned out to be too good to be true. Patricia settled back into her seat, her expression kind but direct. "I'm sure you have 1,000 questions. Let me start by explaining who I am and what's happening here. I work for James Henderson. You met him last night. I'm the Director of Community Outreach for Henderson Technologies. Does that name mean anything to you?" Rachel shook her head. "We're a tech company based here in Nashville. James founded it about 12 years ago, and we've grown quite a bit. But that's not why I'm here." Patricia leaned forward slightly. "James started a program 5 years ago called Second Chances. It's designed to help people who are experiencing homelessness get back on their feet, not with a handout, but with real, lasting support." "Why?" Rachel asked, the word coming out more sharply than she intended. "Why would he do that?" Patricia's expression grew sad. James had a younger sister named Emily. She struggled with addiction and mental health issues. 5 years ago, she ended up on the streets. James tried to help her, but she kept refusing. She was ashamed, I think. Didn't want her successful brother to see how far she had fallen. One winter night, she froze to death in an alley downtown. Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm so sorry." James was devastated. He blamed himself for not doing more, for not being more persistent. After Emily died, he decided he would never walk past someone in need again. He started the Second Chances program in her memory. Patricia pulled a folder from her bag. "That's why he helped you last night. And that's why I'm here this morning." "I don't understand what you want from me," Rachel said quietly. "We want to help you build a new life. Not just give you a night in a hotel and send you on your way, but actually help you create stability and independence." Patricia opened the folder. "Here's what we're offering. A job in our customer service department. It pays $15 an hour to start, with benefits after 90 days. Help finding an apartment. We'll cover the security deposit and first month's rent. A clothing allowance so you can dress appropriately for work. And access to counseling, financial planning, and other support services for as long as you need them." Rachel stared at her, unable to believe what she was hearing. "What's the catch?" "No catch. We ask that you work hard, show up on time, and eventually, when you're back on your feet, that you pay it forward. Help someone else the way we're helping you." Patricia smiled. "I know it sounds too good to be true, but I promise you, this is real. We've helped over 300 people through this program, and most of them are thriving now." "I lost my last job," Rachel admitted, her voice small. "I was a waitress, but the restaurant closed. Before that, I was in college, but I had to drop out when my financial aid ran out. I don't have any tech skills." "You don't need tech skills for this job. You need to be reliable, kind, and willing to learn." "From your file," Patricia paused, seeing Rachel's confusion. "James had someone do a basic background check last night, just standard procedure. You have no criminal record. You finished high school with good grades. You worked steadily until recently. You're exactly the kind of person this program was designed for, someone who just needs a hand up, not a handout." Rachel felt overwhelmed. Tears spilled down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Patricia said gently. "Say yes, and let us help you." "Yes," Rachel whispered. "Yes, please. Yes." Patricia reached across and squeezed her hand. "Good. Now, the hotel room is yours for the rest of the week while we get everything else arranged. Tomorrow, we'll go apartment hunting. The day after that, you'll come to the office and start orientation. But today," she stood up, smiling, "today we're going shopping." "Shopping." Rachel wiped her eyes, confused. You need more than one outfit, dear. And shoes, and a winter coat, and probably 100 other things. James allocated a budget for your clothing needs, and we're going to use every penny of it. Patricia held out her hand. Come on. Let's go build your new wardrobe. Rachel stood up slowly, still half convinced she would wake up and find herself back in her car. But Patricia's hand was solid and warm in hers, and when they walked out of the hotel into the bright November morning, the sunshine felt like a promise. They spent hours at a mall in the nice part of town. Patricia had an eye for quality and practicality, steering Rachel toward durable clothes in flattering colors. They bought work outfits and casual clothes, pajamas and a warm winter coat in deep red. Patricia insisted on getting proper shoes, not just sneakers but professional shoes for work, boots for the winter. They bought a purse, a wallet, basic jewelry. In every store, Patricia treated Rachel with respect, asking her opinion, encouraging her to pick things she liked. It had been so long since anyone had treated Rachel like a person with preferences and dignity that she found herself crying in the dressing room of the third store. Patricia simply handed her tissues through the door and waited patiently until she was ready to come out. By the time they returned to the hotel, Rachel's room was filled with shopping bags. Patricia helped her hang up the new clothes and organize everything. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Rachel seriously. I know this is overwhelming. I know you probably don't fully trust this yet. That's okay. Trust takes time. She pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. This is my cell phone number. If you need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. Day or night. If you're scared, if you're confused, if you just need someone to talk to. I've been doing this work for 5 years, and I've seen a lot of people come through this program. You're going to make it, Rachel. I can tell. How can you tell? Rachel asked. Patricia smiled. Because you accepted help. You'd be surprised how many people refuse, even when they are desperate. Pride is a powerful thing. But you were brave enough to get in that car last night. That tells me you're a survivor, and survivors are the ones who thrive once they get a real chance. After Patricia left, Rachel sat in her hotel room surrounded by her new belongings. She thought about the past 3 weeks, about how close she had come to losing everything, including herself. She thought about James Henderson, driving through the rain looking for someone to help because he could not help his sister. She thought about Patricia, who had spent an entire day making sure a stranger had everything she needed. Rachel went to the window and looked out over Nashville. Somewhere out there were other people like her, cold and scared and hungry. But tonight, she was warm. Tonight, she was safe. And tomorrow, she would start building a future. She pressed her hand against the cool glass and whispered a promise to herself. When she made it through this, when she was strong again, she would pay it forward. She would help someone else the way these strangers had helped her. Because that was what kindness did. It multiplied. It spread. It changed everything. Have you ever experienced an act of kindness that changed your life? If someone offered to help you with no strings attached, would you accept it? Subscribe now and share your story in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone who needs hope today. The first morning in her hotel room should have felt like a dream, but instead, Rachel woke with a sharp clarity she had not experienced in months. She had slept deeply again, her body finally trusting that she was safe enough to fully rest. The clock read 7:15, and pale morning light filtered through the curtains. For several minutes, she simply lay there, appreciating the softness of the sheets, the warmth of the blankets, the absence of fear. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Rachel wrapped herself in the robe and opened the door to find another room service cart, this time laden with a full breakfast, scrambled eggs, bacon, toast, fresh fruit, and a carafe of coffee. There was another note. Eat well. Patricia will pick you up at 9. Dress comfortably. You have a big day ahead. J.H. Rachel brought the cart inside and ate slowly, savoring each bite. The coffee was rich and strong, nothing like the watery stuff she used to buy at gas stations when she still had a little money. She was halfway through her eggs when her phone, which she had plugged into the charger in the room, buzzed to life. Messages flooded in, mostly from debt collectors and her old landlord. She deleted them without reading and opened her email instead. There was a message from an address she did not recognize, phomes@hendersontech.com. She opened it. Dear Rachel, welcome to your new beginning. Today we will tour several apartments to find one that suits your needs. I've already contacted 3 property managers who work with our program regularly. These are good, safe buildings in decent neighborhoods. After we find your apartment, we'll set up utilities and get you some basic furniture. Tomorrow, you'll come to the office to begin orientation. I'm attaching some information about Henderson Technologies and the Second Chances program so you can familiarize yourself. See you at 9. Warmly, Patricia Holmes. Rachel clicked on the attachments and spent the next hour reading everything. Henderson Technologies specialized in software solutions for small businesses, accounting programs, inventory management systems, customer relationship tools. The company had grown from a startup in James's garage to a mid-sized firm employing over 200 people. But what struck Rachel most was the section about the Second Chances program. The program had started small, just James personally helping a few individuals. But over 5 years, it had expanded into a full initiative with dedicated staff, partnerships with local nonprofits, and a track record of success. The website showed statistics. Over 300 people helped, an 85% success rate in achieving stable housing and employment after 1 year. There were testimonials from program graduates, people who had been where Rachel was and were now thriving. One testimonial was from a woman named Beth Chambers. 3 years ago, I was living in my car with my 6-year-old daughter after escaping an abusive marriage. I had nothing, no job, no home, no hope. The Second Chances program gave me all 3. Today, I'm a customer service supervisor at Henderson Technologies. My daughter is thriving in school, and we have a home we're proud of. I tell my story because I want others to know, accepting help is not weakness. It's courage. And sometimes, one person's kindness can change everything. Rachel read that testimonial 3 times. A single mother with a child had made it through. If she could do it, maybe Rachel could too. At exactly 9 o'clock, Patricia called from the lobby. Rachel grabbed her new red coat and rode the elevator down, her stomach fluttering with nervous energy. Patricia was waiting with 2 cups of coffee and a warm smile. Ready to find your new home? She asked. They drove to the first apartment building in Patricia's sensible sedan. The neighborhood was modest but clean, with small houses and low-rise apartment buildings lining tree-lined streets. The building itself was brick, well-maintained, with a small courtyard in front. The property manager, a friendly man named Tom Rodriguez, met them at the entrance. We have 3 units available, he explained as he led them inside. 2 one-bedrooms and a studio. All are within the program's budget. The first 1-bedroom was on the 2nd floor. It was small but clean, with a main room that served as living room and bedroom, a tiny kitchen with just enough counter space for 1 person, and a bathroom with an old but functional tub. The windows faced east, letting in morning light. The floors were worn hardwood, and the walls needed paint, but the bones were good. What do you think? Patricia asked. It's perfect, Rachel breathed. She walked to the window and looked out at the courtyard below. Really perfect. Tom smiled. This is one of our best units. The tenant before you lived here for 8 years only moved because she bought a house. Heat and water are included in the rent. You just pay electric. There's a laundry room in the basement and parking out back. Can I really have this? Rachel turned to Patricia, afraid to hope too much. If you want it, it's yours. We'll cover first month's rent and security deposit. After that, the rent is $600 a month, which will be affordable on your salary. Patricia pulled out her phone and started taking notes. Tom, when could she move in? How about Monday? That gives us 3 days to clean it thoroughly and fix a couple of minor issues. I'll have it ready for her. Perfect. Patricia shook his hand. Rachel, why don't you take another look around while Tom and I handle the paperwork? Rachel walked through the apartment again, this time letting herself imagine living here. Her bed against that wall. A small table in the kitchen where she could eat breakfast. Her clothes in the closet. Plants on the windowsill. This could be home. This could be the place where she rebuilt her life. By the time they left, everything was arranged. Rachel had keys in her hand, actual keys to an actual apartment. Patricia drove them to a furniture store next, one that apparently had a standing relationship with the Second Chances program. "We have a budget of $2,000 for furniture and household items," Patricia explained as they walked through the store. "That's enough for the basics: bed, couch, table, chairs, kitchen supplies, linens, everything you need to start fresh." They spent 2 hours selecting items. A simple but comfortable bed with a real mattress. A small couch in soft blue. A kitchen table with 2 chairs. Lamps, dishes, pots and pans, towels, sheets. Patricia helped Rachel choose practical items that would last, steering her away from the cheapest options toward things with better quality that would hold up over time. "You're building a foundation," Patricia explained as Rachel hesitated over a nicer set of dishes. "Not just a temporary fix. Get things that will serve you well." The store manager, a woman named Carla Santos, greeted Patricia like an old friend. "Another success story in the making?" she asked with a warm smile. "Absolutely," Patricia said, putting her arm around Rachel's shoulders. "This is Rachel. She's starting with us next week." "Welcome to your new beginning," Carla said, and she meant it. Rachel could tell. They arranged for everything to be delivered Monday morning. As they left the store, Rachel felt lighter than she had in months. She had an apartment. She had furniture. She had clothes and a job starting in 2 days. It was almost too much to process. "Hungry?" Patricia asked, checking her watch. "It's past noon. Let's get lunch." They went to a small cafe downtown, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and a handwritten menu on a chalkboard. Patricia ordered a sandwich and soup. Rachel, still not quite believing she could order whatever she wanted, chose the same. "Tell me about yourself," Patricia said once they had settled into a booth by the window. "I know the basics from the background check, but I want to hear your story." Rachel stirred her soup, not sure where to begin. "There's not much to tell. I grew up in a small town outside Memphis. My dad left when I was 10. My mom did her best, but she was always working. I was good in school, made decent grades, had plans to become a teacher." She paused, remembering the girl she used to be. "I got into a state university on partial scholarship. That's where everything started going wrong." "What happened?" Patricia's tone was gentle, not prying, just listening. "My mom got sick my sophomore year. Cancer. I came home to help take care of her, planning to go back after she got better." Rachel's throat tightened. She didn't get better. She died that summer. And suddenly I was alone with all her medical debt, all her bills. I couldn't go back to school. I lost my scholarship. I moved to Nashville because I thought a bigger city would have more opportunities. "When did you lose your apartment?" Patricia asked quietly. 2 months ago. I was working double shifts at the restaurant, barely making rent. Then they closed with only 1 week's notice. I had nothing saved. My landlord wouldn't work with me. I kept thinking I'd find another job quickly, that it was just temporary." Rachel laughed bitterly. "Turns out when you don't have a permanent address or a phone that works, it's pretty hard to get hired." Patricia reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You did everything right, Rachel. You worked hard. You tried to take care of your mother. The system failed you, not the other way around." "I was so scared," Rachel admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Every day, I was terrified. I didn't know if I was going to eat. I didn't know if someone would hurt me. I started to feel like I was disappearing, like I wasn't even a real person anymore." "But you are a real person, a strong person, and you're here now." Patricia's eyes were bright with certainty. "Rachel, in 3 months, 6 months, a year, you're going to look back on this time and be amazed at how far you've come. I've seen it happen hundreds of times. The people who make it through our program don't just survive. They thrive." "Why does Mr. Hendausen do this?" Rachel asked. "I understand about his sister. But this program must cost him so much money, so much time. He could just donate to homeless shelters and call it a day." Patricia smiled. "I asked him that once, about 2 years ago. He said something I'll never forget. He told me that writing a check is easy. It makes you feel good without requiring you to actually see people suffering, to acknowledge their humanity. But real change, real help, that requires getting in the car, It requires looking someone in the eye and saying, I see you. You matter. Your life has value. That's what he's doing with this program. He's seeing people. Rachel thought about that night in the rain, about James Henderson pulling up beside her and ordering her into his car. At the time, she had been too scared to understand what was really happening. But now she saw it. He had not just saved her from those men. He had seen her as a person worth saving. They finished lunch and spent the afternoon at various stores, buying household essentials, cleaning supplies, toiletries, a few groceries that would keep until Monday. Patricia also took her to get a basic cell phone plan set up on a budget carrier. You need a working phone, she insisted. For work, for emergencies, for staying connected. By the time Patricia dropped Rachel back at the hotel, it was early evening. Rachel's hotel room was full of shopping bags and boxes, evidence of a day that felt more like a dream than reality. She organized everything carefully, folding clothes, arranging toiletries, making lists of what she still needed. That night, after another generous room service dinner courtesy of James Henderson's credit card, Rachel sat by the window and watched the lights of Nashville come on across the city. Somewhere out there, people were sleeping in cars and doorways, scared and cold like she had been just 2 nights ago. The thought broke her heart. She pulled out the new phone Patricia had helped her set up and found the number for second chances in her contacts. She sent Patricia a text. Thank you for today. For everything. I don't know how to repay this kindness. Patricia's response came quickly. You don't repay it. You pay it forward. When you're strong again, you help the next person. That's how this works. Sleep well, Rachel. Monday, your new life begins. Rachel set down her phone and closed her eyes. For the first time in months, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Not the desperate, fragile hope of someone drowning and grasping at anything that might float. But real hope. Solid hope. The kind of hope that comes from people proving through their actions that you are worth saving, that your life matters, that second chances are not just possible but real. She thought about Beth Chambers and her daughter, about the hundreds of others who had walked this same path. She thought about Emily Henderson, who never got her second chance but whose memory was now saving others. And she thought about James Henderson, driving through the rain looking for someone to help, turning his grief into grace for strangers. Rachel made a promise to herself that night. She would not just accept this help. She would earn it by becoming someone who helped others. She would take this second chance and build something beautiful with it. And someday, when she was strong and stable and whole again, she would be the one pulling up beside someone in the rain, offering them a ride toward hope. Because that was what Patricia had told her at lunch, and Rachel understood it now. Kindness was not a debt to be repaid. It was a gift to be passed on. And the more people who passed it on, the more the world changed, one rescued life at a time. Monday morning arrived bright and cold. Rachel woke early in her hotel room, too nervous to sleep past 6. Today she would move into her apartment and start orientation at Henderson Technologies. She dressed carefully in one of her new outfits, dark jeans and the blue sweater, and tried to calm the butterflies in her stomach. She had been given so much already. What if she failed? What if she was not good enough for this job? What if she let everyone down? Patricia arrived at 8:30 sharp, looking professional in a charcoal pantsuit. Ready for moving day. Ready, Rachel said, though her voice shook slightly. The furniture delivery truck was already parked outside Rachel's new building when they arrived. Tom Rodriguez met them with the keys, and for the next 2 hours, Rachel's little apartment transformed from empty space into a home. The bed went in the main room, by the window. The couch faced where a television would eventually go. The small table fit perfectly in the kitchen area. Tom helped arrange the heavier pieces while Patricia and Rachel unpacked boxes of kitchen supplies, linens, and bathroom items. By 11 o'clock, the apartment was fully furnished. Rachel stood in the center of her living room, overwhelmed by the reality of it. She had a home. A real home, with her own bed and dishes and towels. She had a key that belonged to her. She had an address where she could receive mail. These simple things that most people took for granted felt like miracles. What do you think? Patricia asked, watching her face. I think I might cry again, Rachel admitted with a shaky laugh. Go ahead. These are good tears. Patricia smiled and checked her watch. We have time for you to settle in a bit before we need to head to the office. Why don't you make the bed, put your clothes away, make this place feel like yours. I'll run to the corner store and grab us some sandwiches for lunch. After Patricia left, Rachel moved through the apartment slowly, touching everything. She made her bed carefully, smoothing the new sheets and arranging the pillows. She hung her clothes in the closet, organized her shoes on the floor below them. She arranged her toiletries in the bathroom, lined up the dishes in the kitchen cabinets. Each small act of domesticity felt sacred, like a ritual of reclaiming her life. When Patricia returned with lunch, they ate at Rachel's new kitchen table. This afternoon, you'll meet James officially and get oriented to the company, Patricia explained. The job is straightforward. You'll be answering phones, responding to customer emails, helping troubleshoot basic software issues. We'll train you on everything. You'll work Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, with an hour for lunch. What if I'm not good at it? Rachel asked quietly. Then we'll train you until you are. Rachel, we don't expect perfection. We expect effort and honesty. Show up on time. Work hard. Ask questions when you don't understand something. That's all we need. Patricia paused. And if customer service is not the right fit, we'll find something else. The point is not to slot you into whatever job we have available. The point is to help you find work that suits you and pays enough to support yourself. They drove to Henderson Technologies headquarters in the business district downtown. The building was modern and glass-fronted, 8 stories of innovation and success. Inside, the lobby was bright and welcoming, with comfortable furniture and local artwork on the walls. The receptionist, a young man with friendly eyes, looked up as they entered. You must be Rachel, he said with a smile. I'm Derek. Welcome to Henderson Tech, Patricia. Mr. Henderson asked me to send you both up as soon as you arrived. They took the elevator to the top floor. The executive offices were quieter, more refined than the bustling activity Rachel had glimpsed on the lower floors. Patricia led her to a corner office with James Henderson's name on the door. She knocked once and opened it. James was standing by the window, looking out over Nashville. He turned as they entered, and Rachel was struck again by how different he seemed from that rainy night. In his navy suit and crisp white shirt, he looked every inch the successful CEO. But his eyes were kind when they settled on her. Rachel, he said simply. Please, sit down. Rachel took one of the chairs across from his desk. Patricia sat beside her. James settled into his own chair and folded his hands on the desk. How are you settling into your apartment? He asked. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Rachel felt tears threaten again and blinked them back. I don't know how to express how grateful I am. You don't need to thank me. I'm doing what I should have done for my sister. His expression was difficult to read. Patricia has explained the Second Chances program. Yes, sir. James is fine. We're not formal here. He leaned back in his chair. I want to be clear about what we're offering and what we expect. You'll start in customer service at $15 an hour. After 90 days, if you're meeting expectations, you'll get benefits, health insurance, dental, vision, and a retirement account will match up to 4%. After 6 months, you're eligible for raises based on performance. He pulled out a folder and slid it across the desk. This is your employment contract. Read it carefully. You're also getting access to our support services, financial counseling to help you manage your money and build savings, career counseling if you want to pursue additional education or training, and mental health services if you need someone to talk to. All of this is confidential and free to you. Rachel opened the folder with shaking hands. The contract was clear and straightforward. Everything James had described was there in writing. We ask for 1 year of commitment, James continued. After that, you're free to stay or pursue opportunities elsewhere. Many of our program graduates stay, some for years. Some move on to other jobs once they are stable. Either path is fine. He paused. There's one more thing. I'd like to tell you about my sister, Emily. I think it will help you understand why this program matters so much to me. Rachel nodded, not trusting her voice. James stood and walked back to the window, his hands in his pockets. Emily was brilliant. Funny, creative, full of life. She wanted to be an artist. But she struggled with depression and anxiety from a young age. In college, she started self-medicating with drugs and alcohol. I was too busy building this company to notice how bad it had gotten. By the time I realized she needed serious help, she was already addicted. His voice remained steady, but Rachel could hear the pain underneath. I tried everything. Rehab programs, therapists, interventions. Sometimes she'd get clean for a few months. Then she'd relapse. Eventually, she stopped letting me help. She was ashamed, she said. Didn't want her successful brother to see her like that. She disappeared into the streets. I'm so sorry, Rachel whispered. I hired private investigators to find her. They'd locate her, and I'd go down there, try to convince her to come home. She'd refuse every time. She said she didn't deserve help, that she'd just fail again, that she was beyond saving. James turned from the window, his eyes bright. The night she died, she was half a mile from this building. Half a mile. If I had been looking, if I had been driving around instead of working late at my desk, I might have found her. I might have saved her. You can't know that, Patricia said gently. She made her own choices, James. I know. I've been through enough therapy to understand I'm not responsible for her death. But I am responsible for how I respond to it. He looked directly at Rachel. Every person I help through this program is a chance to honor Emily's memory. Every life we change is a refusal to let her death be meaningless. Do you understand? Yes, Rachel said. I understand. Good. James sat back down and picked up a pen. Then let's make this official. Sign the contract. Start your new job. Build your new life. And when you're strong enough, help the next person who needs it. Rachel signed the contract with tears streaming down her face. Patricia produced tissues and a smile. James stood and extended his hand. Welcome to Henderson Technologies, Rachel. I believe you're going to do great things here. They shook hands, and Rachel felt the weight of his faith in her. He barely knew her, but he was betting on her anyway. He was giving her not just a job, but a chance to prove that she was more than her worst circumstances, that her life had value and purpose. Patricia spent the rest of the afternoon showing Rachel around the building. The customer service department was on the third floor, a large open space with dozens of workstations. The employees looked up with friendly smiles as Patricia led Rachel through. They stopped at a desk near the window. This will be yours, Patricia said. Your computer is already set up. Your supervisor is Beth Chambers. Remember her testimonial? She'll train you starting tomorrow. A woman approached from across the room. She was in her 30s, with warm brown eyes and an easy smile. You must be Rachel. I'm Beth. Welcome to the team. Rachel recognized the name from the website. You were in the program too, she said. 3 years ago. Best thing that ever happened to me. Beth gestured around the department. Actually, about a third of our customer service team came through second chances. We take care of each other here. You're going to fit right in. They talked for a few minutes about what training would look like, what a typical day involved, how the team supported each other. Beth was warm and encouraging, making Rachel feel less nervous about starting. As Patricia drove Rachel back to her apartment that evening, Rachel felt the full weight of the day settling on her. She had signed an employment contract. She had met her supervisor. Tomorrow, she would start work. Her life was moving forward at a pace that felt both thrilling and terrifying. Thank you, she said to Patricia, for everything you've done, for believing in me. It's easy to believe in you, Rachel. You're going to be wonderful. Patricia pulled up in front of the apartment building. Get some rest tonight. Tomorrow starts early, but you're ready for this. Rachel climbed the stairs to her second-floor apartment and unlocked the door. Her apartment. Her home. She walked through it slowly, running her hands over the furniture, looking out the window at her new neighborhood. Then she sat on her couch and let herself cry, not from sadness or fear, but from gratitude and relief and hope. She thought about James Henderson losing his sister and turning his grief into grace for strangers. She thought about Patricia dedicating her career to helping people rebuild their lives. She thought about Beth Chambers escaping an abusive marriage and now helping others through the same program that saved her. These people had chosen kindness over bitterness, generosity over selfishness, hope over despair. And now Rachel had the same choice. She could take this second chance and hoard it, keep her head down, focus only on her own survival. Or she could let this kindness change her, transform her into someone who lifted others up the way she had been lifted. The choice seemed obvious. She would pay it forward. She would help others. She would prove that James Henderson's faith in her was not misplaced. Because that was how grace worked. You received it, you let it heal you, and then you passed it on. And somewhere in that cycle, broken people became whole, despair became hope, and lives were transformed one act of kindness at a time. Rachel's alarm went off at 6:30 Tuesday morning, pulling her from a deep sleep. For a confused moment, she could not remember where she was. Then reality settled over her like a warm blanket. She was in her own apartment, in her own bed, about to go to her first day of real work in months. She jumped up, suddenly afraid of being late, and rushed through her morning routine. She dressed in one of the professional outfits Patricia had helped her choose, gray slacks and a white blouse with a green blazer. She ate a quick breakfast of toast and coffee, grabbed the lunch she had packed the night before, and was out the door by 7:30. Patricia had mapped out the bus route for her, and the stop was only 2 blocks away. The bus arrived on time, and Rachel found a seat by the window, watching Nashville wake up around her. She arrived at Henderson Technologies at 7:50, 10 minutes early. Derek waved from the reception desk. "First day. How do you feel?" "Terrified," Rachel admitted with a nervous laugh. "You'll be great. Beth is already upstairs waiting for you." Rachel took the elevator to the 3rd floor and found Beth at the desk that was now hers. She had 2 cups of coffee and a warm smile. "Morning. I figured you could use some caffeine. Ready to learn everything there is to know about customer service." They spent the first 2 hours going through the computer systems. Henderson Technologies software was designed to be user-friendly, and Beth was a patient teacher. She showed Rachel how to log into the customer database, how to access support tickets, how to navigate the help documentation. Rachel took careful notes, determined not to forget anything. "Don't worry about memorizing everything today," Beth said, seeing her stressed expression. "It takes a few weeks to really get comfortable. I'll be right here whenever you have questions." Around 10 o'clock, Beth let Rachel take her first call. A customer was having trouble with an invoice feature, and Rachel walked her through the solution step by step, following the script Beth had given her. When the customer thanked her warmly at the end of the call, Rachel felt a rush of pride. She had helped someone. She had done her job. At lunch, Beth invited Rachel to join her in the break room. Several other employees were there, and Beth introduced her around. Everyone was friendly, asking about her background, welcoming her to the team. A man named Kevin Martinez, who worked in the technical support department, mentioned that he had also come through the Second Chances program 2 years earlier. "Changed my whole life," he said simply. "I was living in a shelter, picking up day labor work when I could find it. Now I have my own place, I'm saving money. I'm even taking online classes toward a degree. This company takes care of people." "That's what I'm learning," Rachel said quietly. After lunch, Beth let Rachel handle more calls on her own, monitoring from her own desk nearby and jumping in only when Rachel looked confused. By the end of the day, Rachel had successfully resolved a dozen customer issues. She was exhausted but exhilarated. She had worked a full day. She had earned a paycheck. She had contributed something valuable. As she rode the bus home, Rachel thought about how different this day was from the ones that had come before. Just 1 week ago, she had been sleeping in her car, wondering where her next meal would come from. Now she was a functioning member of society again, with a job and an apartment and a future. The transformation felt almost miraculous. Over the next few weeks, Rachel fell into a rhythm. Wake up, go to work, come home, make dinner, study the training materials Beth gave her. She learned the software inside and out, memorized solutions to common problems, got faster and more confident with each passing day. Beth was an excellent supervisor, supportive but not overbearing, quick with praise when Rachel did well and patient when she made mistakes. One Friday afternoon, about 3 weeks into the job, Beth invited Rachel to lunch off-site. They walked to a small sandwich shop a few blocks from the office. Once they were settled in a booth, Beth looked at Rachel seriously. You're doing really well. James asked me for an update yesterday, and I told him you're one of the best new hires we've had in a while. Rachel felt a flush of pride. Really? Really? You're reliable. You're kind to customers. You learn quickly. Those are the qualities that matter most in this job. Beth paused. I wanted to ask you something personal. Do you mind? Of course not. How are you doing? I mean really doing. Because I remember those first few weeks after I started, and they were hard. The job was fine, but the adjustment, going from survival mode to normal life, that was harder than I expected. Rachel set down her sandwich, surprised by how well Beth understood. It's been strange, she admitted. Good strange, but strange. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, convinced it's all going to disappear, that I'll find myself back in my car somehow. And I feel guilty. Guilty for what? For being here, safe and warm, when I know there are still people out there sleeping in doorways and going hungry. Why did I get saved when they didn't? Beth nodded slowly. I felt exactly the same way. I used to lie awake thinking about the other women at the shelter, the ones who didn't have anyone to help them. It ate me up inside. How did you deal with it? Rachel asked. I realized that feeling guilty didn't help anyone. But using my second chance to help others, that made a difference. That's when I started volunteering. Beth pulled out her phone and showed Rachel some photos. This is the Nashville Community Center. They run programs for at-risk youth, homeless services, food distribution. I volunteer there every Saturday morning. You should come with me this weekend. Rachel looked at the photos. Smiling children, families receiving groceries, people gathered around tables sharing meals. I'd like that, she said. I'd really like that. That Saturday, Rachel met Beth at the community center at 8 in the morning. The building was an old church that had been converted into a multipurpose facility. Inside, it was bright and welcoming, with artwork on the walls and the smell of coffee in the air. Beth introduced Rachel to the director, a woman named Angela Price, who had been running the center for 15 years. Always happy to have more volunteers, Angela said warmly. Beth, why don't you show Rachel the food pantry? We have a big distribution today. For the next 4 hours, Rachel helped pack grocery bags, carry boxes, and hand out food to families in need. She saw mothers with tired eyes and children who looked hungry. She saw elderly people struggling to carry their bags. She saw young men who reminded her of the ones who had chased her that rainy night, except these men were just trying to survive, not hurt anyone. During a break, a teenage boy approached the water table where Rachel was refilling cups. He was thin and tall, with shaggy brown hair and wary eyes. He filled a cup and drank it quickly, then refilled it and drank again. Are you new here? He asked. First time volunteering. I'm Rachel. Kyle. He hesitated, then asked, do they have any more of those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? I'll check. Rachel went to the kitchen and came back with 2 sandwiches wrapped in plastic. Hey, take both. Kyle took them gratefully. Thanks. I missed breakfast. Do you come here often? Rachel asked gently. Couple times a week. They have a tutoring program after school. I come for that mostly. He looked embarrassed. And the food. My mom works 2 jobs. Sometimes there's not much at home. Rachel's heart ached for him. What grade are you in? Junior in high school. Or I should be. I'm kind of failing everything. He said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. What's your hardest subject? Math. I just don't get it. My teacher might as well be speaking another language. Rachel had always been good at math. I could help you, if you want. I mean, I'm not a professional tutor or anything, but I did okay in school. Kyle looked skeptical. Why would you do that? Because someone helped me when I needed it. Now I want to help someone else. Rachel smiled. Come on. Let's find Angela and see if we can set up some tutoring sessions. By the time Rachel left the community center that afternoon, she had signed up to tutor Kyle twice a week and to volunteer every Saturday with food distribution. Beth drove her home, grinning. Told you this would be good for you, she said. It was. Thank you for bringing me. Rachel looked out the window at the neighborhood passing by. I forgot what it felt like to help people. I was so focused on my own survival for so long, I forgot that there's more to life than just getting by. That's the gift of the Second Chances program, Beth said. It doesn't just save you. It makes you into someone who saves others. That's why the success rate is so high. When you've experienced real kindness, real grace, you want to pass it on. That night, Rachel sat at her kitchen table and wrote a letter to James Henderson. She told him about her first few weeks at the company, about meeting Kyle at the community center, about how his kindness had not just saved her life, but had transformed it. She told him that she understood now why he did this work, why he could not just write checks to charity and call it enough. She told him that she would spend the rest of her life paying forward what he had given her. She never sent the letter. Instead, she kept it in a drawer as a reminder of her promise to herself. But 2 days later, she found a note on her desk at work, written in neat handwriting. Beth tells me you've started volunteering at the community center and tutoring a young man who needs help. This is exactly what I hoped would happen when we brought you into the program. You're not just building your own life back. You're helping others build theirs. Emily would have liked you. Keep up the excellent work. J.H. Rachel folded the note carefully and put it in her wallet, carrying James Henderson's approval with her like a talisman. She was making it. She was not just surviving but thriving. And more importantly, she was becoming the kind of person who made the world a little bit better just by being in it. That was the real second chance, not just the job or the apartment or the stability, but the opportunity to become someone who mattered, someone who helped, someone who changed lives through small acts of consistent kindness. And Rachel intended to seize that chance with both hands and never let go. Winter settled over Nashville with cold winds and gray skies. Rachel's life had fallen into a comfortable routine. She woke early, had coffee while reviewing her notes from work, took the bus to Henderson Technologies, spent 8 hours helping customers, then headed to the community center twice a week to tutor Kyle. On Saturdays, she volunteered with Beth at food distribution. On Sundays, she meal prepped for the week, did laundry, and video called with her mother's old neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who had been like a grandmother to her. 3 months into her job, Rachel received her first performance review. Beth sat across from her with a proud smile. You're exceeding expectations in every category. Your customer satisfaction scores are among the highest on the team. You show up on time every day. You help your coworkers without being asked. Honestly, Rachel, you're exactly the kind of employee every manager dreams of having. Thank you, Rachel said, feeling warmth spread through her chest. I just want to do good work. You are. Which is why I'm recommending you for the early raise program. Instead of waiting 6 months, you'll get your first raise at 4 months. An extra $2 an hour. Rachel's eyes widened. That's $17 an hour. Starting next pay period. Beth handed her the paperwork. You've earned it. Keep doing what you're doing. That evening, Rachel did the math. The raise meant an extra $320 a month after taxes. She could finally start saving, maybe even put money toward getting her car fixed so she wouldn't have to rely on the bus. The possibilities felt endless. Kyle was waiting for her at the community center when she arrived for their Tuesday session. He had his math textbook open and a discouraged expression. I have a test tomorrow, and I'm going to fail it. Let me see. Rachel sat beside him and looked at the practice problems. Quadratic equations. She remembered these from her own high school days. Okay, let's break it down step by step. The key is understanding the formula, not just memorizing it. For the next hour and a half, Rachel worked with Kyle until she saw the confusion clear from his face and understanding take its place. By the time they finished, he was solving problems on his own, checking his answers and correcting his own mistakes. I actually get it, he said, sounding surprised. I really get it. You got it because you worked hard. I just showed you the path. Rachel closed his textbook. You're smart, Kyle. You just needed someone to explain it differently. Why do you do this? Kyle asked suddenly. Spend your time helping me. You don't even know me. Rachel thought about how to answer. A few months ago, I was in a really bad place. I was homeless, scared, and I thought my life was over. Then some people decided to help me, even though they didn't know me either. They gave me a job and a home and a chance to start over. I'm helping you because that's what you do when someone gives you a second chance. You pass it on. Kyle looked down at his textbook. My mom is always working. She doesn't have time to help me with school. And I don't have money for a real tutor. You don't need money. You just need someone who cares. And I care. Rachel smiled. Now go home and get some sleep. You're going to do great on that test. 2 days later, Kyle met Rachel at the center with the biggest smile she had seen from him yet. I got a B+ on the test. A B+. I've never gotten higher than a D in math. See? I told you that you could do it. Rachel felt prouder of his grade than she had of almost anything in her own life. My mom cried when I showed her, Kyle said quietly. Happy crying. She said she was proud of me. She should be. You worked hard for that grade. Over the next few weeks, Kyle's confidence grew. He started turning in homework regularly, participating in class, even helping other students who were struggling. His math teacher noticed the change and reached out to Angela at the community center to ask what had happened. When Angela told Rachel about the call, she brushed it off. I'm just doing what anyone would do. That's not true, and you know it, Angela said gently. Most people don't do this. Most people are too busy with their own lives to notice a struggling kid who needs help. You're making a real difference in Kyle's life. One Saturday in early February, a woman approached Rachel during food distribution. She was in her early 30s, thin and exhausted looking, with a young girl clinging to her hand. Excuse me, she said hesitantly. Are you Rachel Turner? Yes. Rachel did not recognize her. I'm Sandra Patterson, Kyle's mom. Tears filled her eyes. I wanted to thank you for what you're doing for my son. His grades are improving. He talks about college now, about having a future. You gave him hope. Rachel felt her own eyes sting with tears. He's a good kid. He just needed some support. Can I hug you? Sandra asked. They embraced in the middle of the busy food pantry, two women who had both known hard times, both understood what it meant to struggle and to be saved by kindness. When they pulled apart, Sandra wiped her eyes. If you ever need anything, you just tell me. I work at a diner on 5th Street. You come in anytime, and your meal is on me. You don't have to do that, Rachel protested. I know I don't have to. I want to. Sandra squeezed her hand. That's what good people do. They help each other. That afternoon, Beth invited Rachel to get coffee after their volunteer shift. They sat in a sunny corner of a small cafe, warming their hands on their mugs. Beth had been quieter than usual, and Rachel finally asked if something was wrong. Not wrong exactly, just thinking. Beth looked out the window at the people passing by. My daughter, Sophie, she's 9 now. She was 6 when we went through the Second Chances program. She doesn't remember much about that time, thank goodness. But lately, she's been asking questions about why we don't see her father, about why we moved so much when she was little. What do you tell her? Rachel asked gently. The truth, in age-appropriate ways. That her father made bad choices. That sometimes adults have to make hard decisions to keep their children safe. That we're in a good place now because people helped us when we needed it. Beth turned to Rachel. She wants to come volunteer with me next Saturday. She says if people helped us, she wants to help other people too. That's beautiful, Rachel said. She's learning what you're learning. What I learned. That receiving grace changes you. It makes you want to extend grace to others. Beth smiled. James always says that's the secret to breaking cycles of poverty and hardship. Not just helping people survive, but helping them become helpers themselves. That's how communities heal. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Rachel said, I got my first raise this week. Beth told me she was recommending you. Congratulations. It's enough that I can start saving money. Maybe fix my car. Maybe even think about taking a class or two at the community college eventually. Rachel paused. A few months ago, I thought my life was over. Now I'm making plans for the future. It doesn't seem real sometimes. It's real because you made it real. Yes, James and Patricia and I helped open doors for you. But you're the one who walked through them. You're the one showing up every day, working hard, Helping Kyle. Volunteering here. That's all you, Rachel. I couldn't have done any of it without the foundation you all gave me, Rachel insisted. That's exactly right. And that's the whole point. None of us do this alone. We all need help sometimes. The strong life is the one that accepts help when needed and gives help when able. Beth finished her coffee. You're living that now. You're proof that the program works. The following week, Rachel received an unexpected email from James Henderson's assistant, asking her to come to his office Friday afternoon. Rachel spent the next 2 days nervous, wondering if something was wrong. Had she made a mistake she did not know about? Was the company cutting back? Had someone complained about her? Friday afternoon, she took the elevator to the 8th floor with her stomach in knots. James's assistant, a kind woman named Helen, smiled warmly. "He's expecting you. Go right in." James was at his desk, reviewing something on his computer. He looked up when Rachel entered and gestured to the chair across from him. "Rachel, thank you for coming. How are things going?" "Good, so. I mean, James. Really good. I've been hearing excellent reports about your work. Beth says you're one of her best team members." He closed his laptop and gave her his full attention. "But that's not why I asked you here. I wanted to talk to you about something else. Angela Price from the community center called me this week." Rachel's heart sank. Had she done something wrong with the volunteering? "She told me about the work you're doing with Kyle Patterson," James continued. "Apparently, his grades have improved dramatically. His teachers are amazed at the transformation. And it's all because you decided to spend your free time helping him." "I just tutor him in math," Rachel said quickly. "It's not that big a deal." "It's a very big deal to Kyle. And to his mother. And to Angela, who has been trying to find consistent tutors for her program for years." James leaned forward. "This is what I hoped would happen when we brought you into the program. I hoped you would take the help you received and use it to help others. You're living proof that investing in people creates ripple effects that spread far beyond the original act of kindness." Rachel felt tears threaten, but blinked them back. "You gave me my life back. Helping Kyle is the least I can do." "It's not the least. It's everything. And I want to make sure you can keep doing it." James pulled out a folder. "Henderson Technologies has a community partnership fund. We give grants to local nonprofits doing good work. I'm approving a grant to the Nashville Community Center specifically to expand their tutoring program. And I'd like you to help design it." "Me?" Rachel stared at him. "I'm just a customer service representative. I don't know anything about program design." "You know what it's like to need help and to receive it. You know what it's like to struggle and to overcome. That perspective is more valuable than any degree." James slid the folder across to her. "This is completely voluntary. It won't interfere with your regular job. But if you're interested, I'd like you to work with Angela and Patricia to create a structured tutoring program that we can fund long-term. Train other volunteers. Match students with tutors. Track outcomes. Build something sustainable." Rachel opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were budget projections, program proposals, outcomes data from similar initiatives in other cities. "I don't know if I'm qualified for this." "You're more qualified than you think. And you'll have support every step of the way." James's expression softened. "Rachel, you've been here 4 months. In that time, you've rebuilt your life, excelled at your job, and started making a difference in your community. You're exactly the kind of person I hoped you would become when I picked you up that rainy night. Say yes. Help us build something that will change lives for years to come." Rachel thought about Kyle and his B+ on the math test. She thought about Sandra Patterson crying tears of gratitude because someone had given her son hope. She thought about all the other kids at the community center who might benefit from consistent academic support. "Yes," she said firmly. "I want to help." "Excellent. Helen will set up a meeting with you, Angela, and Patricia for next week. Take the weekend to review these materials and think about what kind of program would have helped you when you were Kyle's age." James stood and extended his hand. "Thank you, Rachel, for being exactly who we hoped you would be." As Rachel rode the bus home that afternoon, she felt like she was floating. 6 months ago, She had been sleeping in her car, wondering if she would survive the winter. Now she was being asked to help design a program that would help countless young people succeed. The transformation was so complete, so total, that it took her breath away. That evening, she called Kyle's phone. Sandra had given her the number weeks ago so they could coordinate tutoring sessions. "Hey, Rachel," Kyle answered. "Everything okay?" "Everything is great. I have some news. Henderson Technologies is funding a new tutoring program at the community center. A real program, with trained volunteers and structured support for students who need help. You help make this happen, Kyle. You and your hard work." "Really?" Kyle sounded stunned. "How did I help?" "By proving that tutoring works. By showing what's possible when someone believes in you and you believe in yourself. Other kids are going to get the same help you got, and it's because you showed everyone what a difference it makes." Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I get to college, I want to come back and be a tutor too. Help other kids like you helped me." "I think that's a perfect plan," Rachel said, her voice thick with emotion. "That's exactly how this is supposed to work." After they hung up, Rachel sat in her apartment and looked around at her modest but comfortable home. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the desperation, the fear, the rainy night when a stranger had ordered her into his car. She thought about Patricia and Beth and Angela and all the people who had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return. And she understood something profound. This was not just about her anymore. Her story was becoming part of a larger story, one about how grace multiplied, how kindness spread, how one person's decision to help could create waves that touched hundreds of lives. James had saved her because he could not save his sister. Now Rachel was saving Kyle. And someday, Kyle would save someone else. And on it would go, an endless chain of redemption and second chances. Rachel pulled out her journal and began writing down ideas for the tutoring program. She wanted it to be comprehensive but personal, structured but flexible, professional but warm. She wanted every student who came through it to feel the way she had felt when James Henderson had looked at her and seen someone worth saving. She wanted to build something that would last, something that would change lives long after she was gone. Because that was the legacy of kindness. It did not die with the giver. It lived on in every person who received it and chose to pass it forward. And Rachel intended to pass it forward for the rest of her life, paying back the debt she could never truly repay by helping as many people as she possibly could. It was the least she could do. And it was everything. Spring arrived in Nashville with sudden warmth and blooming trees. Rachel had been at Henderson Technologies for 6 months, and her life felt stable in a way she had never experienced before. She had savings in her bank account, not a lot, but enough for emergencies. Her car was fixed and running smoothly. She had friends at work and at the community center. She had purpose. The tutoring program was taking shape. Rachel met with Patricia and Angela every other week, designing curriculum, recruiting volunteers, setting up assessment protocols. They planned to launch in the fall, giving them the summer to finalize everything. Kyle's grades had improved so much that he was now on track to graduate on time, and his teachers were talking about scholarship possibilities. Everything was moving in the right direction. Then, on a Saturday morning in late April, Rachel's past knocked on her door. She was getting ready to head to the community center when someone rapped sharply on her apartment door. Rachel opened it to find a woman in her late 40s standing in the hallway. She was thin, with graying blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her clothes were clean but worn. Her face was lined with exhaustion and something else, sickness, maybe, or pain. It took Rachel a full 5 seconds to recognize her. "Mom." The word came out as barely a whisper. "Hello, Rachel." Diane Turner's voice was hoarse. "Can I come in?" Rachel stood frozen, her hand on the doorknob. She had not seen her mother in 6 years, not since the funeral when they had argued about medical bills and unpaid debts, and all the ways Diane had failed as a parent. Rachel had walked away that day and never looked back. "How did you find me?" Rachel asked, not moving. "I hired someone to track you down. Took them a few months." Diane coughed, a deep, rattling sound. "Please, Rachel. I need to talk to you." Against her better judgment, Rachel stepped aside. Diane entered slowly, looking around the small apartment with an expression Rachel could not read. She sat on the couch without being invited, and Rachel remained standing by the door, ready to ask her to leave. "Nice place," Diane said. "You're doing well for yourself. What do you want?" Rachel's voice was harder than she intended, but she could not help it. Too many years of hurt stood between them. "I'm sick," Diane said bluntly. "Lung cancer. Stage 3. The doctors say I have maybe a year, maybe less if I don't get treatment." Rachel felt like she had been punched in the stomach. "Cancer. Been smoking since I was 15. Guess it finally caught up with me." Diane laughed bitterly. "I don't have insurance. Can't afford treatment. I'm living in a weekly motel room in Memphis, working part-time at a gas station when I'm not too sick to stand up." "Why are you telling me this?" Rachel asked, though she already knew the answer. "Because you're my daughter. Because I need help." Diane looked up at her with eyes that held both desperation and defiance. "I know I wasn't a good mother. I know I let you down. But I'm still your mother, Rachel. Doesn't that count for something?" Rachel felt a hurricane of emotions: anger, guilt, sadness, resentment. "You left me alone when I needed you most. After the funeral, when I was drowning in your medical debt, when I had to drop out of college to pay for your bills, you disappeared. I didn't hear from you for 6 years. Not a call, not a letter, nothing. And now you show up because you need something from me." "I was ashamed," Diane said quietly. "I was ashamed of what I had put you through, of the debt I left you with. I thought you'd be better off without me." "That was not your decision to make." Rachel's voice shook. "You were my mother. I needed you, and you abandoned me. I know I did. And I'm sorry." Diane started coughing again, harder this time. When she finally stopped, she looked up at Rachel with tears in her eyes. "I'm not asking for money. I know you probably don't have much. I just need a place to stay while I figure things out. Maybe help getting connected to some services. I don't have anyone else, Rachel." Rachel walked to the window and stared out at the street below. Her mind was racing. Every instinct told her to say no, to protect herself, to not let this woman back into her life to cause more pain. But another voice, quieter but persistent, reminded her of something Patricia had said months ago. Grace is not just receiving help. It's extending help, even when it's hard. She thought about James Henderson, helping strangers because he could not help his sister. She thought about Beth, who had rebuilt her life and now dedicated herself to helping others. She thought about the person she had become over the past 6 months, someone who helped, who showed up, who chose kindness even when it was difficult. "I don't know if I can forgive you," Rachel said without turning around. "Not right now, maybe not ever. But I won't let you die on the street." She heard her mother's breath catch. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Rachel turned to face her. "I'll help you find a place to stay. I'll help you get connected to medical services. But I have conditions. You go to every doctor's appointment. You follow whatever treatment plan they recommend. And you go to counseling with me so we can work through our issues. If you can't commit to those things, then you need to leave now." Diane stood up slowly, unsteady on her feet. "I can commit to that. I will commit to that." "Okay." Rachel grabbed her phone. "Let me call someone who might be able to help." She called Patricia, explaining the situation as briefly as she could. Patricia listened without interrupting, then said, "Bring her to the community center. Angela knows people who work with uninsured patients. We'll figure this out." Rachel drove her mother to the community center in silence. Diane stared out the window, occasionally coughing into a tissue. When they arrived, Angela was waiting with a woman named Dr. Martinez, who volunteered her time providing medical services to people who could not afford regular health care. Dr. Martinez examined Diane in a private room, while Rachel sat in Angela's office, trying not to cry. Angela sat beside her, not saying anything, just being present. "I don't know if I can do this," Rachel finally said. "I don't know if I'm strong enough to take care of her." "You're stronger than you think," Angela said gently. "And you don't have to do it alone. That's what community is for. Dr. Martinez emerged an hour later. She's very sick, she said bluntly. She needs to see an oncologist as soon as possible. I'm going to refer her to the county hospital. They have programs for uninsured patients. It won't be free, but it will be manageable. Where can she stay? Rachel asked. She knew her own apartment was too small, and she was not ready to share that space with her mother anyway. We have a partnership with a transitional housing program, Angela said. It's designed for people who are recovering from illness or injury and need temporary support. I'll make some calls. By the end of the afternoon, Diane was set up in a clean, simple room at a facility run by a local church. It was not fancy, but it was safe and affordable. She had appointments scheduled with an oncologist and a social worker. She had information about financial assistance programs and support groups. As Rachel prepared to leave, Diane caught her hand. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm grateful for it, and I promise I'll do better this time. Actions, not words, Rachel said. Show me you mean it. Over the next few weeks, Rachel visited her mother twice a week. They did not talk much at first. The silences between them were heavy with years of hurt and disappointment. But slowly, cautiously, they began to rebuild something. Diane went to her appointments without complaint. She started treatment, even though it made her sick. She attended counseling sessions with Rachel, where they began to unpack the years of dysfunction. In one session, Diane finally explained why she had disappeared after the funeral. I looked at you and saw everything I had ruined. Your education gone, your future derailed, all because of the debt from my medical bills. I thought the kindest thing I could do was get out of your life and let you rebuild without me weighing you down. That was not kind, Rachel said, her voice breaking. That was cowardice. I needed my mother, and you took the easy way out. You're right. I was a coward. I've been a coward your whole life, running from responsibility, running from hard truths, always taking the easy path. Diane wiped her eyes. But I'm not running anymore. I'm here. I'm facing this. And I want to make whatever time I have left count for something. The counselor, a patient woman named Dr. Foster, helped them navigate their complex feelings. She taught them how to communicate without attacking, how to set boundaries, how to rebuild trust slowly. It was hard work, harder than anything Rachel had done. But gradually, she felt the wall between them begin to crack. Beth noticed the strain Rachel was under and pulled her aside one day at work. You're carrying a lot right now. Are you okay? Rachel explained about her mother, about the cancer, about trying to reconcile with someone who had hurt her deeply. Beth listened carefully. This is going to sound strange, but I think this might be a gift, Beth said finally. A gift? My mother has cancer. No, I mean the opportunity to make peace with her before it's too late. I never got that chance. My mother died while I was still married to my abuser, and we never reconciled from a fight we'd had years earlier. I live with that regret every day. Beth squeezed Rachel's hand. You're being given a chance to heal this relationship before it's too late. That's a gift, even if it doesn't feel like one right now. Rachel thought about that conversation often in the weeks that followed. She began to see that choosing to help her mother was not just about her mother, it was about the kind of person Rachel wanted to be. She had received grace when she was desperate. Now she had the opportunity to extend grace to someone else, even someone who had hurt her. One evening in late May, Rachel and her mother sat on a bench outside the transitional housing facility, watching the sunset. Diane had lost weight from the treatment, and her hair was starting to thin, but her eyes were clearer than Rachel had seen them in years. I'm proud of you, Diane said suddenly. I know I don't have the right to be, but I am. Look at what you've built, a job, a home, friends, a life. You did that on your own, with no help from me. I didn't do it on my own, Rachel corrected. People helped me. That's the only reason I made it. Then you're smarter than I was. I never knew how to accept help. Too proud, too ashamed. I thought asking for help made you weak. Diane looked at her daughter. You taught me different. Watching you accept help, watching you work hard and build a life, it showed me that strength is not doing everything alone. Strength is knowing when you need support. Rachel felt tears slip down her cheeks. I'm still angry at you for leaving me. You should be. I left you when you needed me most. That was unforgivable. Diane took her hand. But maybe, if I have enough time, I can show you that I'm different now. That I can be the mother you deserved all along. Maybe, Rachel said. We'll see. But in her heart, Rachel felt something shifting. The anger was still there, but it was not the only thing. There was also hope, fragile and tentative, but real. Hope that reconciliation was possible. Hope that even the most broken relationships could be mended with time and effort and grace. Because that was what she had learned over the past 6 months. Nothing was beyond redemption. Not homeless people living in cars. Not failing students who thought they had no future. And maybe, just maybe, not even relationships that seemed destroyed beyond repair. Grace was bigger than hurt. Love was stronger than resentment. And second chances were for everyone, even mothers who had failed and daughters who were learning to forgive. Summer arrived with humid heat and long, bright days. Rachel's life had become a careful balance of work, volunteering, and helping her mother navigate treatment. It was exhausting, but it was also teaching her things about herself she had not known, that she was more resilient than she thought, more capable of forgiveness, more willing to extend grace even when it was hard. Diane's treatment was going as well as could be expected. The oncologist, Dr. Patel, was cautiously optimistic that they had caught it early enough for chemotherapy to be effective. Diane had lost more weight and most of her hair, but her spirit seemed stronger. She attended every appointment, followed every instruction, and showed up to counseling sessions ready to do the difficult work of healing their relationship. One afternoon in early June, Rachel brought Kyle to meet her mother. He had finished his junior year with a 3.2 GPA, a dramatic improvement from the 1.8 he had started with. Sandra had invited Rachel to a small celebration dinner, and Rachel had asked if she could bring someone. Diane was sitting outside the transitional housing facility when they arrived, wearing a colorful scarf over her bald head. Kyle approached shyly, clearly not sure what to say to a woman with cancer. "You must be Kyle," Diane said warmly. "Rachel talks about you all the time. She says you're quite the math genius now." Kyle blushed. "I'm not a genius. Rachel just helped me understand it better." "Well, any kid who can pull his grades up that much in 1 year is pretty special in my book." Diane patted the bench beside her. "Sit down. Tell me about this scholarship you're applying for." As Kyle talked about his plans, he wanted to study engineering at Tennessee State. Rachel watched her mother listen with genuine interest, asking questions, offering encouragement. This was a side of Diane she did not remember seeing often. Maybe illness had changed her. Or maybe she had always had this in her, buried under years of self-destruction and shame. After they left, Kyle said to Rachel, "Your mom is nice. She's really sick, huh?" The rain came down in sheets, turning the Nashville sidewalk into a river of broken dreams and yesterday's promises. Rachel Turner pressed herself against the brick wall of the Mission Hope soup kitchen, staring at the locked door and the small handwritten sign that read closed for repairs, sorry. Her stomach twisted with hunger, so sharp it felt like her body was eating itself from the inside out. 23 days she had been living in her 12-year-old Honda Civic, parked in different lots each night to avoid the police. 23 days since the eviction notice. 23 days since her landlord changed the locks while she was at work, and her boss laid her off the same afternoon because the restaurant was closing. The cardboard box she had been using to shield herself from the weather was now a soggy mess in her hands. Rachel let it fall to the ground and watched it dissolve into the puddle at her feet. Her red jacket, once her favorite piece of clothing, was soaked through. Her jeans clung to her legs like ice. She had not eaten a real meal in 2 days. The protein bar she found in her glove compartment that morning was long gone, barely taking the edge off the ache in her belly. She was 24 years old, and she was disappearing. Not in the way people talk about feeling invisible in a big city, but actually disappearing, like her body was becoming less solid with each passing hour. Rachel looked down the empty street, wondering where she would go next. The library closed at 6. The McDonald's 3 blocks away had already asked her to leave twice this week for sitting too long, without buying anything. Her phone had died yesterday, and she had no way to charge it. No phone meant no job applications, no contact with the outside world, no GPS to find the warming shelters that opened when the temperature dropped below freezing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out $7.32. That was everything she had left in the world. The November wind cut through the street like a blade. Rachel's teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue, tasting copper. She thought about her car, parked 4 blocks away behind a grocery store. At least inside she would be out of the rain, even if the heater had stopped working last week. She pushed off the wall and started walking, each step a small victory over the exhaustion that pulled at her bones. Her sneakers made squishing sounds. Water had seeped through the holes in the soles days ago. She was halfway down the block when she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy footsteps, more than one person. Rachel's heart began to pound. She had learned to trust her instincts on the street. Danger had a sound, a rhythm. These footsteps were following her, matching her pace. She walked faster. They walked faster. She could see the corner ahead, the streetlight that marked the turn toward the grocery store parking lot. Just a little farther. "Hey," a male voice called out behind her. "Hey, you." Rachel did not turn around. She broke into a run, her waterlogged shoes slipping on the wet pavement. Pain shot through her ankle as she twisted it, but she kept moving. She could hear them running now, closing the distance. There were 3 of them, she realized. 3 sets of footsteps splashing through puddles, getting closer. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Where could she go? Every door on this street was locked. Every business closed for the night. That was when the black car appeared. It pulled up alongside her so smoothly, so quietly, that Rachel almost ran into it. The passenger window rolled down, and a man's voice, calm and authoritative, cut through the rain. "Get in the car." Rachel stumbled to a stop, her chest heaving. She looked at the car, sleek, expensive, completely out of place on this rough street. Then she looked at the man in the driver's seat. He was maybe 35, with dark hair and sharp features. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her car. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were steady, focused entirely on her. "I said get in," he repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Rachel looked back over her shoulder. The 3 figures were closer now, emerging from the shadows. She could see their faces, hard, hungry, dangerous. The one in front was smiling, but it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had found prey. Her hand was on the car door handle before she realized she had made a decision. Every self-preservation instinct screamed at her not to get into a car with a stranger. But those men behind her were worse than strangers. They were a guarantee of violence. This man in the expensive car was at least a question mark, a possibility of something other than certain harm. Rachel yanked the door open and threw herself inside. The interior was warm, smelling of leather and something clean she could not identify. Before she could even close the door, the man accelerated smoothly, and they glided away from the curb. Through the rearview mirror, Rachel saw the 3 figures slow down, stop, and then fade into the rain. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Rachel sat rigid in the passenger seat, dripping water onto the pristine floor mats, her heart still hammering. She kept her hand on the door handle, ready to jump out at the first red light. The man drove with casual confidence, navigating the downtown streets like he knew them by heart. "You're safe now," he said finally, not looking at her. His voice was different when he was not giving orders, quieter, almost gentle. "Who are you?" Rachel managed to ask through her chattering teeth. Someone who was in the right place at the right time. He reached behind him and pulled out a towel from the back seat, handing it to her without taking his eyes off the road. "Dry your face." Rachel took the towel with shaking hands. It was soft and white and probably cost more than she used to spend on groceries in a week. She pressed it against her face, feeling the warmth, the cleanliness of it. When she lowered it, she realized she was crying, tears mixing with the rain on her cheeks. "Yeah, she is. My grandma died of cancer when I was little. It's hard." Kyle looked at her seriously. "Are you going to be okay?" The question caught Rachel off guard. Here was this teenage boy, who had his own struggles and challenges, worrying about her. "I'll be okay," she said. "It helps to have friends." You've been a good friend to me, Kyle said. If you need someone to talk to, you can call me. I mean it. Rachel felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, Kyle. That means a lot. The tutoring program was coming together beautifully. Patricia had secured funding not just from Henderson Technologies, but from 2 other local businesses. Angela had recruited 15 volunteer tutors and identified 40 students who needed academic support. Rachel had designed an assessment system to track progress and a matching system to pair students with tutors based on subjects and learning styles. In mid-July, they held a training session for all the volunteers. Rachel stood in front of the group, a mix of college students, retirees, and working professionals who wanted to give back, and shared her story. She talked about being homeless, about how helping Kyle had given her purpose, about how this program could change lives. You're not just tutoring math or reading, she told them. You're showing young people that someone believes in them. That's what matters most. When I was tutoring Kyle, the actual equations were important, but what really made the difference was that he knew I cared. That's what you're offering these kids, not just knowledge, but care. After the training, a retired teacher named Margaret Ellis approached Rachel. That was a powerful presentation. You're a natural at this. I'm just sharing what I learned, Rachel said modestly. Don't sell yourself short. You've got a gift for helping people. Have you ever thought about going back to school? Finishing your degree? Rachel had thought about it, actually. More and more lately. I wanted to be a teacher once. But I don't know if I can afford it. Henderson Technologies has an education assistance program, Patricia said, joining the conversation. They'll pay for classes related to your career development. I think teaching qualifies. Rachel stared at her. Really? Really? You've been here almost 7 months. You're eligible. If you're interested, I can get you the paperwork. That night, Rachel lay in bed thinking about possibilities. Could she actually go back to school? Finish a degree? Become a teacher? The dream she had set aside years ago suddenly seemed possible again. But it felt selfish, somehow, to focus on herself when her mother was sick and needed her. She called Beth the next morning to talk it through. Beth listened to her concerns and then said firmly, Rachel, taking care of yourself is not selfish. Your mother would want you to pursue your dreams. And honestly, showing her that you're building a future despite everything, that might be the best gift you could give her. You really think so? I know so. Talk to her about it. I bet she'll surprise you. That evening, Rachel visited her mother and brought up the possibility of going back to school. Diane's face lit up. That's wonderful. You should absolutely do it. But what about you? What if you need me and I'm in class? Rachel, I'm not going to hold you back from your dreams. Not again. Diane took her hand. I stole enough from you already. I won't steal this too. Go to school. Become the teacher you always wanted to be. Make me proud. Rachel started crying. I want to make you proud. I want you to see me graduate. Then I'll fight to be there, Diane said simply. I'll do everything Dr. Patel tells me to do. I'll take care of myself so I can be around to watch you succeed. Rachel enrolled in 2 evening classes at the community college for the fall semester, Introduction to Education and English Composition. It was a small start, but it was a start. She would work full-time during the day, take classes 2 evenings a week, and continue volunteering on weekends. It would be exhausting, but it would be worth it. In August, the tutoring program officially launched with a ceremony at the community center. James Henderson attended, along with Patricia, Beth, Angela, and dozens of community members. Kyle stood beside Rachel as they cut the ribbon, symbolizing the opening of a program that would help hundreds of students over the years to come. James gave a short speech about the importance of investing in young people, about how education was the pathway out of poverty, about how everyone deserved someone who believed in them. Then he called Rachel forward. This program exists because Rachel Turner decided that receiving help was not enough. She decided to give help too. She took her second chance and turned it into hundreds of second chances for others. He handed her a plaque that read, in recognition of Rachel Turner's vision and dedication in creating the Nashville Community Center Academic Support Program. With gratitude for showing us what grace in action looks like. Rachel could barely see through her tears. The audience applauded, and she felt surrounded by love. Beth and Patricia and Angela, Kyle and Sandra, her co-workers from Henderson Technologies, and in the back, wearing her colorful scarf, her mother, clapping harder than anyone. After the ceremony, Diane hugged her daughter tightly. "I'm so proud of you. I wish I could take credit for how you turned out, but I can't. You did this yourself. You're an amazing woman, Rachel." "I had help," Rachel insisted. "So much help. And you took that help and multiplied it. That's the difference." Diane pulled back and looked at her seriously. "Promise me something. If I don't make it." "Mom, don't." "No, listen. If I don't make it, promise me you'll keep doing this. Keep helping people. Keep being the person you've become. Don't let grief stop you. Promise me." Rachel wiped her eyes. "I promise." But Diane was not giving up. As summer turned to fall, she continued to show up to appointments, to counseling sessions, to every part of her treatment plan. She started volunteering at the transitional housing facility, helping other residents navigate their own challenges. She even started attending a support group for cancer patients, where she made friends for the first time in years. One evening in late September, Rachel found her mother in the common room of the facility, teaching another resident how to knit. Diane had never knitted before in her life, but she had learned from a YouTube video and was now passing the skill along. "I'm paying it forward," Diane said with a smile when Rachel expressed surprise. "You taught me that. When people help you, you help others. It's how the world is supposed to work." Rachel sat down and watched her mother patiently guide another woman's hands, showing her how to loop the yarn, how to keep the tension even. This woman, this version of her mother, was someone Rachel barely recognized. She was patient, kind, engaged with the world instead of hiding from it. "You've changed," Rachel said later as they walked outside. "I had to. Cancer has a way of making you face the truth about your life." Diane looked up at the darkening sky. "I wasted so many years being bitter and afraid. I'm not wasting whatever time I have left. I'm going to spend it being useful, being kind, being the person I should have been all along." "I'm glad," Rachel said. "I'm really glad." They stood together in companionable silence, mother and daughter, both of them changed by suffering and saved by grace. The road ahead was uncertain. Diane's prognosis was still guarded, and there were no guarantees. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. They had second chances. They had hope. And sometimes, Rachel was learning, that was enough. October in Nashville brought cooler temperatures and the annual Henderson Technologies Gala of Hope. The event, held at the elegant Willow Creek Convention Center, was the company's biggest fundraiser of the year, supporting the Second Chances program and other community initiatives. Rachel had heard about it but never imagined she would attend, much less play a central role. Patricia called her into her office one Monday morning, looking both excited and nervous. "I have something to ask you, and I want you to feel comfortable saying no if you're not ready." "Okay," Rachel said cautiously. "James would like you to speak at the gala. About your experience with the program, about starting the tutoring initiative, about how receiving help changed your life." Patricia handed her a folder. "It would be about 5 minutes. We'd have time to help you prepare. But I know public speaking is not everyone's strength, so if you'd rather not." "I'll do it," Rachel said immediately. "Are you sure? It's a big crowd. Over 300 people." "I'm sure. If sharing my story can help raise money to help more people, then I want to do it." Rachel took the folder. "When is it?" 3 weeks from Saturday. We have time to work on your speech, practice it, make sure you're comfortable." For the next 3 weeks, Rachel worked on her speech every spare moment. She wrote about that rainy night, about the 3 men chasing her and the sleek black car that saved her life. She wrote about Patricia taking her shopping, about Beth training her at work, about meeting Kyle and discovering that helping others healed her own heart. She wrote about her mother returning and how grace had transformed both of them. She practiced in front of Beth, who gave her feedback on pacing and emphasis. She practiced in front of Angela, who helped her connect emotionally with the audience. She even practiced in front of Diane, who cried through the whole thing and then said, "That's perfect." Don't change a word. The night of the gala arrived cold and clear. Rachel stood in her hotel room. Patricia had insisted she stayed downtown the night before to avoid any travel stress, and looked at herself in the mirror. She wore the green dress from her first shopping trip with Patricia, now tailored to fit perfectly. Her hair was styled, her makeup carefully applied. She looked like someone who belonged at a fancy event. But underneath the dress and makeup, she was still Rachel Turner, who had been homeless 9 months ago, who had slept in her car and gone hungry and thought her life was over. That Rachel was still part of her, would always be part of her. And tonight, she would tell that Rachel story to a room full of wealthy donors who had no idea what it was like to have nothing. Patricia picked her up at 6, looking elegant in a navy gown. You look beautiful. How do you feel? Terrified, Rachel admitted. Good. That means it matters to you. Patricia squeezed her hand. You're going to be amazing. The convention center was transformed into something magical. String lights hung from the ceiling. Round tables draped in white linens filled the space. A stage at the front held a podium and a large screen for presentations. People in formal attire mingled with champagne glasses, their jewelry catching the light. Rachel stayed close to Patricia as they navigated the crowd. James was near the entrance, greeting guests. When he saw Rachel, he smiled warmly. You look wonderful. Are you ready? As ready as I'll ever be. You're going to do great. Just speak from your heart. He gestured around the room. Everyone here wants to help. Your job is to show them why it matters. Rachel was seated at a table near the front with Beth, Patricia, Angela, and several Henderson Technologies executives. Kyle and Sandra were at the next table. James had insisted they be there. Diane was there too, wearing a pretty blue dress and looking healthier than she had in months. The sight of all her people in one place made Rachel's eyes sting. Dinner was served. Something elegant with words Rachel could not pronounce, but she barely tasted it. Her stomach was ink knots as she watched the program unfold. There were welcome remarks from James, a video presentation about the Second Chances program showing statistics and testimonials, and an appeal from the development director about the need for continued funding. Then Patricia stepped to the podium. Our next speaker is someone who embodies everything this program stands for. 9 months ago, Rachel Turner was experiencing homelessness. Today, she's a valued employee at Henderson Technologies, the founder of our community tutoring initiative, and a living example of what's possible when we invest in people. Please welcome Rachel Turner. The room erupted in applause. Rachel stood on shaking legs and made her way to the podium. The lights were bright, making it hard to see individual faces, which was probably for the best. She gripped the sides of the podium and took a deep breath. 9 months ago, I was standing in the rain outside a closed soup kitchen, wondering if I would survive the night. Her voice came out stronger than she expected. I had been living in my car for 3 weeks. I had $7 in my pocket. I had not eaten a real meal in 2 days. And I had 3 men chasing me down a dark street with intentions I don't want to think about. The room was completely silent now. Rachel could feel every eye on her. That's when a black car pulled up beside me, and a man I had never met told me to get in. Everything in my life up to that point had taught me not to trust strangers, especially wealthy men in expensive cars. But the men behind me were a guarantee of harm. The man in the car was at least a possibility of something different. So I got in. She paused, letting that sink in. That man was James Henderson. And that decision, getting into his car, saved my life. But not just in the immediate sense of getting me away from danger. It saved my life in every way that matters. James took me to a hotel that night. The next morning, Patricia Holmes met me and explained the Second Chances program. Within a week, I had an apartment, a job, and hope for the first time in months. Rachel looked out at the crowd, wishing she could see their faces. But here's what I want you to understand. The apartment and the job were important, but they weren't the most important thing. The most important thing was that people saw me. When you're homeless, you become invisible. People look right through you, step around you, pretend you don't exist. James and Patricia and Beth and so many others saw me as a person with value, a person worth investing in, a person who deserved a second chance. She felt tears threatening but pushed through. I could stand here and tell you that I worked hard and pulled myself up by my bootstraps. But that would be a lie. I worked hard, yes. But I could only work hard because people gave me the foundation to build on. I could only succeed because people believed in me before I believed in myself. Rachel glanced down at her notes, though she barely needed them now. The words were coming from somewhere deeper than the page. 6 months ago, I met a teenage boy named Kyle at the Nashville Community Center. He was failing math and on track to drop out of high school. I started tutoring him twice a week. Today, Kyle has a 3.2 GPA and is applying for college scholarships. I didn't save Kyle. I just showed him that someone cared enough to help. That's all any of us really need, someone who cares. She looked toward Kyle's table, saw him wiping his eyes, Sandra's arm around his shoulders. So I helped Kyle. And Kyle inspired me to create a tutoring program that will help hundreds of other students. And those students will go on to help others. That's how grace works. It multiplies. One act of kindness creates ripples that spread farther than you can imagine. Rachel's voice grew stronger. 9 months ago, I was convinced my life was over. I thought I had nothing to offer the world. Today, I'm enrolled in college working toward a teaching degree. I'm helping run a tutoring program. I'm rebuilding a relationship with my mother that I thought was broken beyond repair. I have a future again. And it's all because people in this room believe that investing in broken people is worth it. She paused and looked directly at where she knew James was sitting, even though she couldn't see him clearly in the lights. James started this program because he couldn't save his sister Emily. But through this program, Emily's memory has saved hundreds of people. I'm one of them. Kyle is one of them. Every person who has come through second chances carries Emily's legacy forward. We are proof that her life mattered, that suffering doesn't have to be meaningless, that redemption is always possible. Rachel's voice caught, but she pushed forward. So when you write your checks tonight, when you decide how much to give, I want you to remember something. You're not just funding a program. You're funding hope. You're funding second chances. You're funding the possibility that broken people can become whole, that desperate people can find purpose, that lives that seemed worthless can become valuable beyond measure. She looked out at the sea of faces, all of them now visible as her eyes adjusted. I can't ever fully repay what was given to me, but I can pay it forward. I can spend the rest of my life helping others the way I was helped. That's what every graduate of this program does. We become helpers. We become hope givers. We become living proof that grace is real and that love always, always wins. Rachel's voice dropped to nearly a whisper, forcing the room to lean in. 9 months ago, I thought my story was over. Today, I know it was just beginning. Thank you for being part of that beginning. Thank you for believing that people like me are worth saving. Because we are. We all are. The room exploded in applause. People stood, giving her a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. Rachel stood at the podium, overwhelmed, tears streaming down her face. She saw James standing and clapping, saw Patricia wiping her eyes, saw Beth beaming with pride. She saw Kyle on his feet, applauding enthusiastically, and Sandra crying happy tears. And she saw her mother, standing and clapping harder than anyone, her face wet with tears and shining with pride. As Rachel made her way back to her seat, person after person stopped her to shake her hand, to hug her, to tell her how moved they were by her story. She felt Patricia's arm around her shoulders, heard Beth whispering, "You were perfect," felt the weight of what she had just done settling over her. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. The development director announced that the gala had raised a record amount, over $500,000, far exceeding their goal. Several attendees approached James to discuss starting similar programs at their own companies. A local foundation representative wanted to talk about expanding the tutoring initiative to other community centers across the city. At the end of the night, after most guests had left, Rachel's small group gathered near the entrance. Kyle hugged her tightly. "Thank you for telling my story, for making people understand what this program means. Thank you for letting me share it," Rachel said. "None of this would exist without you." Sandra hugged her next. "You changed my son's life. You gave him hope when he had none. I'll never forget that." Diane was lost. She held Rachel's face in her hands and said, "That's my daughter. That strong, beautiful, compassionate woman up there. That's my daughter. I don't deserve credit for how you turned out, but I'm so grateful I get to see it. You're part of my story too, Mom. The hard parts and the healing parts. All of it." Rachel hugged her mother close. "We're both proof that it's never too late for redemption." James approached as the others drifted away. "That was the most powerful speech I've heard at any of our galas. You moved people, Rachel. Really moved them. 3 companies have already committed to creating similar programs. Do you understand what that means? Your story is going to help thousands of people across this city." "It's not my story," Rachel said. "It's our story. Yours and Patricia's and Beth's and everyone who makes this program work." "No," James said gently. "It's your story. We gave you tools, but you built the life. You chose to help Kyle. You chose to forgive your mother. You chose to pay it forward. Those were your choices, Rachel. Be proud of them." As Patricia drove Rachel back to her apartment that night, she had decided not to stay in the hotel after all. Rachel looked out at the Nashville streets and thought about how much had changed. 9 months ago, these streets had been frightening, full of danger and despair. Now they felt like home. They felt like possibility. "You did something important tonight," Patricia said. "You showed people that the Second Chances program isn't just about numbers and statistics. It's about human beings with stories and dreams and potential. You made it real for them." "I just told the truth," Rachel said. "That's what made it so powerful." Patricia pulled up in front of Rachel's building. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow, your life goes back to normal. Work and school and tutoring and all the beautiful, ordinary things you've built." But Rachel knew nothing would be quite normal after tonight. She had spoken her truth in front of 300 people. She had claimed her story publicly. She had stood up and said, "I was broken, I was saved, and now I'm helping save others." That changed things. That changed her. She climbed the stairs to her second-floor apartment, unlocked the door, and stepped into her small, warm home. She changed out of the green dress and into comfortable pajamas, made herself a cup of tea, and sat by the window looking out at the quiet neighborhood. Her phone buzzed with messages. Congratulations from co-workers, thank yous from gala attendees, a text from Kyle saying simply, "You're my hero." She responded to a few, then set the phone aside. She thought about Emily Henderson, whose death had created all of this. She thought about all the people who had been helped by the program, all the lives that had been changed. She thought about the ripples still spreading, the new programs being created because of. Tonight, the thousands of future second chances that would exist because James had refused to let his sister's death be meaningless. Rachel pulled out her journal and began to write. She wrote about the gala, about speaking her truth, about the power of sharing your story. She wrote about grace and redemption and the way kindness multiplied when you passed it forward. She wrote about becoming the person she was always meant to be, not in spite of her struggles, but because of them. Because that was the secret she had learned. Suffering could either break you or break you open. And when you were broken open, light could get in. Grace could get in. Love could get in. And all of that could flow back out into the world, healing not just you but everyone you touched. Rachel closed her journal and whispered a prayer of gratitude into the quiet apartment. Gratitude for James and Patricia and Beth. Gratitude for Kyle and Sandro and Angela. Gratitude for her mother's second chance and their healing relationship. Gratitude for every person who had shown her kindness when she had nothing to offer in return. And gratitude for the future, the education she was pursuing, the lives she would touch as a teacher, the endless possibilities that stretched out before her like an open road leading toward hope. The journey was far from over. There would be hard days ahead, setbacks and challenges and moments of doubt. But Rachel knew now that she was not walking that road alone. She was surrounded by people who believed in her, supported her, loved her. And she was becoming someone who did the same for others. That was enough. That was everything. That was Grace. 6 months had passed since the gala, and Nashville was experiencing one of those perfect spring mornings when everything felt possible. Rachel stood in front of her bedroom mirror, smoothing down the blue blazer she had bought for special occasions. Today was special. It was the official launch celebration for the expanded tutoring program, now operating in 5 community centers across Davidson County. She was also being promoted. Beth had been elevated to department manager, and Rachel was taking over as customer service supervisor. It meant more responsibility, better pay, and the chance to mentor new employees the way Beth had mentored her. 15 months ago, Rachel had been sleeping in her car. Today, she was a supervisor with a college transcript showing straight A's in her first 2 semesters. Her phone buzzed with a text from Kyle. "Big day. Can't wait to see you at the ceremony. Guess what? I got my acceptance letter from Tennessee State yesterday. Full scholarship. I'm going to college, Rachel. I'm going to college." Rachel's eyes filled with happy tears. She texted back, "I never doubted it for a second. So proud of you." Another text came in, this one from her mother, finishing up at Dr. Patel's office. "See you at the ceremony. Love you." Diane's latest scans had shown no new cancer growth. She was officially in remission. The doctors were cautiously optimistic that she would have years, not months. She had moved out of transitional housing into her own small apartment and was working part-time at the community center, coordinating volunteers. Mother and daughter talked several times a week now, their relationship not perfect but real and growing stronger with each honest conversation. Patricia picked Rachel up at 9. "Ready for your big day?" "Ready," Rachel said, climbing into the passenger seat. "Is James already at the center?" "He's been there since 8, making sure everything is perfect. You know how he is." Patricia smiled. "He's very proud of you, Rachel. We all are." The Nashville Community Center was decorated with balloons and banners. A crowd had already gathered: tutors, students, parents, donors, city officials. The local news had sent a reporter to cover the expansion. Rachel saw familiar faces everywhere she looked: Beth with her daughter Sophie, Kyle with Sandra, Angela directing volunteers, Kevin from the tech support department who had also come through the Second Chances program. James stood near the entrance, talking with the mayor. When he saw Rachel, he excused himself and came over. "There she is, the woman who made all this possible." "I didn't do it alone," Rachel protested, as always. "No, but you started it. You saw a need and met it. That's leadership, Rachel." He gestured toward the stage that had been set up in the main hall, ready to give another speech. "I thought you were speaking today." "We both are. You're introducing the program. I'm introducing you as the new Director of Community Education Initiatives for Henderson Technologies." Rachel stared at him. "What?" James smiled. "Surprise. We've created a new position. You'll continue supervising customer service part-time, but your main role will be overseeing our educational programs, the tutoring initiative, the scholarship fund we're starting, partnerships with schools. It comes with a significant raise and the flexibility to continue your education. Are you interested?" "Interested?" "James, I." Rachel could not find words. "Yes. Yes, absolutely." "Good. Because you've proven you're uniquely qualified for this work. You understand what these kids need because you've been where they are. You understand the power of second chances because you've lived it." He put a hand on her shoulder. "This is your calling, Rachel. I'm just making sure you can pursue it." The ceremony began with welcome remarks from Angela, followed by a presentation about the program's first 6 months. The statistics were impressive: 80 students served, an average grade improvement of 1 full letter grade, 15 at-risk students now on track to graduate. But more important were the stories: students who had found confidence, parents who had found hope, tutors who had found purpose. Then James took the stage and announced Rachel's new position, explaining her journey from program participant to program leader. The crowd applauded, and Rachel felt her face flush with pride and humility. When she took the microphone, she looked out at the sea of faces: students she had tutored, people she had helped, friends who had become family. 15 months ago, I thought my life was over, she began. I was homeless, hungry, and hopeless. I saw no future for myself beyond survival. Then a stranger showed me kindness, and that kindness changed everything. She went on to tell the story of the tutoring program's creation, how helping Kyle had shown her that her own suffering could become a source of healing for others. She talked about the volunteers who gave their time, the students who worked so hard, the parents who trusted them with their children's futures. But here's what I want you to understand, Rachel said, her voice strong and clear. This program is not charity. It's investment. We're not giving these students something they don't deserve. We're giving them what every child deserves, someone who believes in them, someone who sees their potential, someone who refuses to let them give up on themselves. She paused and looked directly at Kyle, sitting in the front row. Kyle Patterson, would you come up here? Kyle looked startled but stood and made his way to the stage. Rachel put her arm around his shoulders. This young man was failing when we met. Today, he has a 3.5 GPA and a full scholarship to Tennessee State University. He's going to study engineering. He's going to build things that make the world better. And someday, he's going to help other kids who are where he was. That's the cycle of grace we're creating here. The crowd erupted in applause. Kyle wiped his eyes, embarrassed but clearly proud. Rachel continued, every student in this program has that same potential. They just need support to reach it. That's what you're all providing, donors, volunteers, staff. You're making grace real. You're proving that second chances work. You're changing lives. After the ceremony, there was a reception with cake and coffee. Rachel found herself surrounded by people wanting to congratulate her, to share their own stories, to thank her for the work she was doing. It was overwhelming in the best way. Diane approached carrying 2 cups of punch. You were wonderful up there. Very professional. Thanks, Mom. Rachel took a cup. How was your appointment? Clean scans. Dr. Patel says I'm doing great. Diane's eyes were bright. Rachel, I'm going to be around to see you graduate, to see you become a teacher, to see all the lives you're going to change. I'm going to be here. They hugged tightly, both crying happy tears. When they pulled apart, Rachel said, You've changed so much, Mom. I'm proud of you. I learned from the best, Diane said. You showed me what it looks like to accept help and then become a helper. You saved my life, Rachel. Not just by getting me medical care, but by forgiving me. By giving me a second chance. I don't take that lightly. I know you don't. I can see it in how you live now. Rachel squeezed her mother's hand. We're both proof that it's never too late to start over. Later in the afternoon, as the crowd began to thin, Rachel found James standing alone by the window, looking out at the neighborhood. She joined him quietly. Thinking about Emily, she asked softly. Always, he said. But not with the same pain anymore. Now I think about all the people who have been helped in her name. All the Emilys we've saved. It doesn't bring her back, but it gives her death meaning. That's something. It's everything, Rachel corrected. Emily's legacy is this. She gestured around the center, and the program at your company, and the hundreds of people whose lives are different because you refused to let her death be the end of the story. James turned to look at her. You understand that because you're living it. Your hard times could have broken you. Instead, they broke you open, made you compassionate, made you someone who helps others. Emily would have liked you very much. I wish I could have met her. In a way, you have. Every person you help is Emily getting another chance. Every life you change is a legacy continuing. He smiled. You're doing exactly what I hoped someone from our program would do. You're making the world better. As evening approached and Rachel prepared to leave, Angela pulled her aside. I have something to tell you. The school board is so impressed with our tutoring program that they want to create official partnerships with Henderson Technologies. They are talking about funding positions for full-time education coordinators at multiple schools. And they want you to help train them. Rachel felt a surge of excitement. The program is expanding again. It's becoming a model for the whole district. Your work is influencing policy, Rachel. That's huge. Rachel drove home that evening with her mind spinning with possibilities. The tutoring program expanding district-wide. Her new role at Henderson Technologies giving her the platform to do even more. Her education progressing toward a teaching license. Her relationship with her mother healed and growing stronger. Kyle and dozens of other students succeeding because someone believed in them. She thought about the rainy night 15 months ago when James had pulled up beside her and ordered her to get in the car. If she had refused, if she had run away, none of this would exist. She would probably be dead or still trapped in that desperate cycle. But she had chosen to trust. She had chosen to accept help. And that choice had transformed not just her life but dozens of others. Rachel pulled into her apartment complex and sat in her car for a moment, looking up at her second-floor window. Her home. Her safe place. The foundation from which she was building a life that mattered. She remembered the fear and desperation of living in this car, sleeping in the back seat, wondering if she would survive. That Rachel felt like a different person, not because Rachel had forgotten her, but because she had integrated her. The scared, homeless Rachel was part of who she was now, giving her compassion and perspective and drive. Inside her apartment, Rachel changed into comfortable clothes and made dinner, a simple pasta dish she had learned to cook well. As she ate, she reviewed her upcoming week. 3 days of customer service supervision, 2 days working on education initiatives, evening classes on Tuesday and Thursday, tutoring on Wednesday, volunteering on Saturday. It was a full life, sometimes exhausting, but deeply satisfying. Her phone rang. It was Beth. "Hey, I forgot to tell you earlier. Sophie wants to start volunteering at the tutoring program. She's been watching me help and says she wants to help too. Is 9 years old too young to be a reading buddy?" "I think 9 years old is perfect," Rachel said. "We can always use reading buddies for the younger kids. She can pair up with first or second graders and practice reading together." She's going to be so excited. "Rachel, thank you for creating something my daughter can be part of. She's learning what I learned, that helping others is how we become our best selves." After they hung up, Rachel sat by her window and watched the sun set over Nashville. The city lights began to flicker on, one by one, like stars appearing in the darkening sky. She thought about all the lives being lived in those buildings, all the struggles and triumphs, all the people who needed help and all the people who could give it. She thought about the invisible threads connecting everyone in this city, James to Emily to Rachel to Kyle, to Sophie to hundreds of others, whose names she would never know. All of them linked by grace, by second chances, by the decision to help instead of walking past suffering. Rachel pulled out her journal and began to write. 15 months ago, I was dying on the streets of Nashville. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, losing pieces of myself every day until there was almost nothing left. Then someone saw me. Really saw me. And that changed everything. I've learned that grace is not passive. It's active. It requires getting in the car, extending your hand, believing in people before they believe in themselves. It requires risk and sacrifice and showing up even when it's hard. I've learned that second chances are real. That no one is beyond redemption. That broken people can become whole and then help others become whole too. I've learned that helping others is not just charity. It's how we heal ourselves. Every time I tutor Kyle or mentor a new employee or share my story, I'm reminded of where I came from and how far I've come. I'm reminded that I'm not defined by my worst moments, but by what I choose to do with the grace I've been given. My life is not perfect. I still have hard days. I still worry about money sometimes, still feel anxious about the future, still carry scars from everything I've been through. But I'm not defined by those struggles anymore. I'm defined by how I've responded to them, with gratitude, with generosity, with a commitment to pay forward what I've received. Emily Henderson never got her second chance. But because of her, hundreds of people have. I'm one of them. And I will spend the rest of my life making sure her legacy continues, making sure that no one who needs help is invisible, making sure that grace always, always wins. Rachel closed the journal and looked out at the Nashville skyline one more time. Tomorrow, she would wake up and go to work. She would supervise her team, help customers, design new educational programs. She would study for her classes, tutor students, volunteer at the community center. She would live the full, purposeful life that had seemed impossible such a short time ago. But tonight, she simply sat in gratitude, surrounded by the quiet comfort of her home, held by the love of the community she had found, confident in the future she was building. She had been lost, and she had been found. She had been hopeless, and she had found hope. She had been broken, and she had been made whole. And now she was helping others find their way home too. That was grace. That was redemption. That was love in action. And it was enough. It was everything. It was a whole beautiful, messy, miraculous story of second chances and the people brave enough to take them. Rachel smiled, whispered a final thank you to the universe, and prepared for bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new opportunities to help. But for now, in this perfect moment of peace, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The story had come full circle, and the circle would keep expanding, touching more lives, creating more second chances, proving over and over that kindness wins, that hope matters, that love, patient, persistent, transformative love, always finds a way. Always.